Hello, my name is Christina Gregory, and I will be giving a brief lesson on Chapter 8 from the Quest for Environmental Justice. Chapter 8 is entitled The Resource War Against Native People. First, I want to provide you with a little bit of background information on Indigenous people. Indigenous people are the individuals who inhabit land before it was conquered by colonizers. Many well-known Indigenous people include Native Americans, Mayans, Incas, Inuit people of the Arctic, and the Maasai people, to name a few. Out of the entire world population, 40% of world countries have people who identify as Native or Indigenous. Currently, there are also over 350 million Indigenous people from 5,250 different nations. Indigenous people have unique cultures and beliefs. Many tie into the land in which they inhabit, and the environment that surrounds them not only provides for them, but also has spiritual significance. So, why are Native people's land under assault? There are multiple reasons, but the main one is that Native land often contains valuable resources that is needed for industry and the military. Industries such as mining, oil, and logging have exploited Native lands for years with little regards to the Native people who inhabit it and their rights and beliefs. Many industries are even using remote sensing satellite photography to identify locations where there are resources that appear to be isolated. This method has also allowed industries to see areas that used to be inaccessible, such as areas in tropical rainforests, mountains, deserts, and frozen tundras. The issue with this is that these satellites do not show that these lands are already inhabited by Native people. Corporations that move into these areas have little regard for the natives who live there. They have painted natives as being incompetent, and as stated in the novel, many industries believe that there is no room for the idea that Native people can manage their own resources. Native people are belittled and their needs are painted unimportant. Industries do not take into account the spiritual belief of the land that natives have and instead justify their actions by claiming that they are bringing economic development into the area. What has this led to? A nice quote from the book that stresses the implication of these industries moving into native land is, "The arrival of the oil industry could have caused the extinction of indigenous groups." The takeover of native lands by industries is causing a systematic displacement, disposition, and deduction of native communities. Industries do not only enforce stereotypes of native people being incompetent, or in some cases even savages, but also devalue and make native people seem worthless in order to seem inferior to them and gain support for their actions. Dominant media paints native people as fighting a losing battle against the onslaught of industrial civilization. As well, there has been a lot of unreported violence that has occurred. Mass killings, arbitrary executions, and destruction of food supply are rarely covered by the mass media. According to a study done by Oxfam America, oil and mineral extraction is more likely to promote violence and instability than areas without these industries. Because of the violence and the injustice that Native people have dealt with, Native communities are organizing themselves to form alliances to publicize the injustice and fight for their rights. Now we will look more specifically at the Uwa people in Colombia. So a little background information. The Uwa people have a very close connection to their land, and because of this, any change to their current environment has made them vulnerable. They suffer more when toxic materials pollute their lands. 1/4 of Colombia land is recognized as indigenous territory, and most of the country's oil is on that land. The Uwa believe that oil is the blood of Mother Earth, and to take away the oil is worse than killing your own mother. The Occidental Petroleum Corporation has moved into Uwa land for oil, and the Uwa see it as an invasion of their traditional lands. Currently, they have and continue to organize to prevent the company from drilling. The first Native organization in Colombia established in 1971. There has been a lot of violence in Colombia that has threatened Native people. Government security forces, drug traffickers, leftist guerrillas, and paramilitary groups have all contributed to killing Uwa people. The Latin American Association for Human Rights even estimates that half of Colombia's native people face annihilation. This is in part due to Plan Colombia, which is when the U.S. claimed they would provide Colombia with $3 billion in military assistance. This has only led to over 500 pipeline bombings by the National Liberation Army to distract foreign oil companies. Therefore, 1 in 4 Colombian soldiers are assigned to protect oil sites, and in turn are also preventing Uwa protests. The growth of the oil industry and the increase of guerrilla armies has gone hand in hand, and native communities have found themselves in the middle of violence. The UA have spent countless years fighting to prevent the oil industry from moving into an area known as the Siriri Oil Block. The UA believed that it would only bring more violence and feel so opposed to Oxy that many claim they would commit mass suicide if Oxy and Shell go ahead with exploration plans, preferring to die with dignity as opposed to slowly. UA people have protested these industries, and the Colombian National Police have responded with violence, even though the protests have been peaceful. Because of this, the UA turned to the 1999 International Week of Action to protest Oxy at their headquarters. The UA have had their ups and downs in terms of preventing the oil industry from overtaking their sacred land. The UA believe that Oxy and their government are ignoring their territorial rights and have therefore turned to both national and international law to try and protect their land. In 1991, there was a Colombian constitution which for the first time recognized indigenous territorial, political, economic development, administrative, social, and cultural rights. As well, in 2000, the UA did celebrate a brief victory as Oxy Court was ordered not to place their oil sites on UA land as it was sacred ancestral land of the tribe, but it was overturned almost 2 months later by the Colombian High Court. Later on in 2000, the UA fought back demanding that Oxy withdraw charges of them being guerrilla sympathizers, as it would lead to further violence against the UA people. Then, in October of the same year, the Colombian Agrarian Reform Institute declared the 500-meter area surrounding the company's oil site as petroleum reserves. Here is the sources that I used for this presentation. I hope you enjoyed it and that you learned something new.